Greetings and welcome to another BIZ Info Zone show. Hi there. My name is V. Lynn Hawkins. I'm your host, and you are in the zone, the BIZ Info Zone, where we show you and provide for you the business information, the tools, the tips, the strategies to help you, the savvy social entrepreneur, to express your purpose, plan your next moves, and increase your profits with ease. Today's guest is Melissa TOSETTI, and I'm so excited to talk to her because, as usual, we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is money. And she's going to actually talk to us a bit about money and finance. The three keys to purposeful spending that creates wealth. And if you have a definition for purposeful spending, I bet you're going to get either more clarification or you'll really be able to define that. Melissa today is going to give you her out-of-the-box definition and her three keys to doing it so that you can create wealth coming back to you. And, you may think you know this stuff. A lot of us, well, I've heard this before and I've heard that before. Well, my thing about wisdom is you never know what might get imparted to you. So the biggest thing to do is to realize that if you're not the expert, then you want to hear this because you are going to find out some exciting stuff. And before we get started, I want to just remind our audience that our shows typically air on Thursdays from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, yet we do on occasion have some special shows and special guests. So watch for the news and information about the BIZ Info Zone shows and see what we've got going on. Today, again, I am so excited to bring to you Melissa TOSETTI, who is founder and owner of The Savvy Life. Melissa is a personal finance author. She's a speaker and a teacher and the founder of the financial education company called The Savvy Life. She's an author of the international bestseller, Living the Savvy Life. And I don't know about you, but that's part of my purpose, is to get to living and be living the savvy life so that I can help others to do the same. Well, Melissa is one of the same. She does one-on-one coaching with individuals and families across the U.S., doing specifically cash flow planning. The primary goal of the planning process is to help them to find money to build their financial foundation by identifying and plugging their financial leaks. Yeah, that's a good one. Got to ask about that. The secondary goal of the planning process is to show them how they can build that financial foundation while enjoying the journey of being purposeful with their spending. While she works one-on-one with clients and families, she's also teaching personal finance from a lifestyle perspective, focusing on savvy day-to-day money habits as well as smart spending for your home, your family, your wardrobe, your beauty, your travel, your entertainment, and all those areas where we most often overspend and with the least amount of satisfaction. So Melissa's going to bring a whole lot of really great information to us today. The 2013 spokesperson for Quicken is coming to us. She's been seen on Money, U.S. News and World Report, the Today Show, Chicago Tribune, the Detroit News, and other really huge publications. I'm so excited to bring Melissa to you today. Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you, and we're just going to jump right in. I always love to hear and to speak the bios of a person, of a guest that I have, but it's so much more gratifying to actually hear your story. So tell us a little bit about how you got on this journey and how you decided to teach cash flow planning and how you got to really addressing the numerous audiences of women entrepreneurs around the country.
Sure. So my My story starts with basically, I grew up in Fresno, California. It's a wonderful little farming community, and I decided when I was about 24 that it would be good to move to the San Francisco Bay Area. The cost of living difference between between Fresno and the San Francisco Bay Area was just exponential. And in addition to that, I had a fair amount of debt. I had actually a significant amount of debt that I carried with me. So what I ended up having to do and choosing to do, because I really did love the Bay Area and I wanted to stay there, I got a job as a receptionist by day, and I waited tables 4 or 5 nights a week so that I could pay down that debt. And what ended up happening was, although I was able to pay down that debt, at the end of any given month, there still wasn't a lot of money left over when I went down to just the one job, right? So I had to figure out how to make what I had go as far as possible. I also had that knowledge that if I overspent, I was going to have to go and work 2 jobs again, and that was not an experience I wanted to go through again. So it was a very hard lesson that I learned. So I started studying everything I could get my hands on about money and about spending. And I started off being probably spending about 2 years being just so frugal and so cheap, and I wouldn't spend any money on anything, didn't dine out, didn't go to the movies. I mean, I just lived this kind of monastic lifestyle. And then I started to think that there has to be a balance, right? That's what we strive for in everything in life. There has to be a balance between the overspending that I did that got me in trouble and this almost feeling of punishment that I wasn't allowing myself to spend anything on anything. Somewhere in the middle. I mean, money should be enjoyed, right? I think that was the great lesson I learned in life. But how do you enjoy it responsibly? How do you enjoy it without having to go back and wait tables? And
Right.
so I started to just kind of not only research basic money management, but I also started to research, like, how do you spend responsibly on clothes? How do you kind of create rules of thumbs and guidelines for vacationing? How do you find additional money to go on these trips, to do these things, while still putting money away for retirement, putting money into an emergency savings account? And it was through that that I started to realize that I can't be the only one that struggled with this. And so I started a print magazine that focused, it was quarterly print magazine, that was really kind of looking at money from a lifestyle perspective, as you mentioned in the intro. And you know, I found that the areas where we kind of struggle, where we have a tendency to spend more money than maybe we want to, is on food, on the things we bring into our home, on our clothes, on our, you know, the travel and entertainment, these areas where we kind of get distracted. And so I just started writing articles about being very purposeful in these areas. How do you do that? And we shifted online in 2006. We now have about 500,000 unique visitors that come to our website a month. And I also started getting asked to do speaking engagements, which is, I love, asked to teach classes. But I started getting asked for people to have me help them with their budget, with their own personal situation, right? How do you, you know, I have this amount of income, and especially with entrepreneurs, because so many times our income is intermittent. How do you manage that, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what I do. I've already done, it's what, 11 a.m. and I've already done 2 spending plans this morning. So it's a very, very fun thing to help people really streamline and become very purposeful with where their money goes. And it's an aspect of my business that I absolutely love.
I love that as well, because that, you said it, that's where we get in trouble, is when we're looking for the savvy lifestyle, but we're making ourselves go the hard way
Oh,
from frugal to freedom.
yeah.
And I'm showing these cards, and I realize that no one is seeing them but you. So we're going from, or trying to get to, we know our destination. We want to get to the savvy lifestyle living. Yet, we take ourselves from frugal to freedom, which is the hard way. I love that you've put it there. And when you add the aspect of, I had one more card, it disappeared, that actually said purposeful. You've given yourself a greater opportunity to take those steps to get to freedom without all of the difficulty. I love that. And you talked about purposeful and purposeful spending. Why don't you give us your definition of
Sure.
purposeful spending?
Sure. And that's also the overall philosophy for absolutely everything that I do and how I work with clients and how I teach. And it's really just a matter of defining what it is that you want to spend your money on. For example, an example I often use is my husband and I love to travel. It's the number one area where we want to spend our discretionary income. So we looked at other areas in our life where we could really streamline our spending. And for example, he and I are not car people. It's not important to us to have the latest and greatest cars. In fact, I'm driving an 18-year-old car that I just love, that I'm getting ready to replace in December. But the idea is that I've had that car with zero car payment for the last 8 years, and the money that I saved by not having that car payment, I've been able to put towards travel. And so we've been able to go on these amazing trips. So it's really, we have opportunities every day to be purposeful in where we want our money to go. The thing is that sadly we're so busy that we go about our lives on autopilot, and we make spending decisions on autopilot. And so it's really a matter, if you can kind of wake yourself up and really look at, when I go, and not to pick on Starbucks. Because there's plenty of clients that we leave that category, that Starbucks category, in their spending plan because it's important to them. But it's just asking yourself, are you really enjoying that cup of coffee that you're getting, the mocha frappuccino thing that you're getting every day, or are you doing it at this point out of habit? And if you're doing it out of habit, what else could you spend that money on? What else could that money go to that would give you more pleasure? So it's just balancing every day, every purchase, every expenditure, and thinking about it and getting out of that spending out of habit or distraction from what you really want.
And those of us who are entrepreneurs really know the value of good habits as they apply to working, and discipline as it applies to how we're looking at our business, trying to grow our business, and doing business enterprise stuff. And yet when it comes down to the money and making more money appear just out of what it is that we have already, that becomes more difficult. And then it's more difficult to pay yourself a wage, more difficult to do so many things. And I love the way you talked about the purposeful acts, really giving you the opportunity to make some other choices. And you're giving us methods of creating wealth, but I also know that there's a piece that's in between all of that called mindset. Talk to us a little bit about what you see, especially in the entrepreneurial world, women entrepreneurs in particular, as far as mindset. I mean, you talked about the fact that it was important for that Starbucks line item to be in there, but even with that, and knowing that you can account for things like that, talk to us about the mindset that needs to be there to help this to happen.
Sure. So the beauty of entrepreneurs is first of all, they think outside the box. They're already thinking differently than somebody who works for a wage, works for a paycheck. It is what you have to do to start your own business and to work your own business every single day. You already have a different mindset than the average person. The part of what I love about working with entrepreneurs is when I can explain to them and get them to understand that if we really focus your spending and we really streamline it and we're focusing on what is most important to you, that takes so much of the pressure away from having to earn more, right? Earning more is great, and earning more is great. Let that build your wealth versus having to sustain your lifestyle. And so that when you can kind of start to think about the idea that what you're doing is you're funding the way that you want to live versus I'm just having to pay the bills. That is the worst possible thought process when it comes to money, having to pay the bills. It's like, no, that's why having a spending plan is so crucial, because it helps you become intentional, right? You have a plan for where you want your money to go for the next 12 months. And you create a business plan for your business, right? It's the same idea with creating a plan for where you want your money to go. And when you see that, and you see it gives you that more control, when you feel like you have more control, your attitude changes. And it's funny. I was listening to Brian Tracy this morning, as I have a habit of when I put my makeup on, I YouTube somebody. And lately I've been on a Brian Tracy kick, and he was talking about the fact that we've heard it from a million different success gurus, that if you think something's going to be hard, it's going to be hard. If you think something's going to be easy and you can get excited about it, it's going to be. And really, that's the way I look at money, but not just because I'm trying to slap a pretty picture on it, but I look at it because I have seen it work for hundreds and hundreds of people. And just that small twist, and the way I'm looking at it a little bit differently, it's just amazing. I get a little excited about it.
I do too, because I know that everything is energy. And because everything is energy, that also means that money is an energy. Mm-hmm. It's an energy of exchange. It's an energy of building wealth. It's an energy of creating. And what you talked about, I love it, because you're so right. And I'm a Brian Tracy fan as well. And to really come to grips with the concept that whatever you believe, you're right. Henry Ford said, whatever it is that you believe, whether it's right or wrong, anywhere, what you believe is right.
Yeah, it's your perception.
That's mindset.
Yeah.
And to shift mindset, especially around money, requires only one thing. And I want you to add to this, because I'm always looking at what some other things might be. But it requires only one thing in my book, and that is being open. Once you're open, you're allowing a lot of things to come to you in the way of information and opportunities. And if there was something that you would say that, bringing more money into your world is, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good one. So, again, I work with people every day in helping them create these spending plans. And the one thing that I have learned in the last 8 years of doing this, of working one-on-one with folks, is that money comes to us on a regular basis. We don't always recognize it for what it is, though. It comes to us in a tax return. It comes to us in a bonus. It comes to us in the money we saved at the grocery store with that dollar amount down at the bottom, and just the weirdest little ways, right? What happens is we don't always recognize it for what it is, and that money just kind of gets frittered away and disappears. So that openness of kind of opening up your mind and looking at these different opportunities of where maybe it's not coming to you directly, but there's another opportunity for you to bring it in. It could be an aspect of your business that you weren't necessarily, we do this, right? We're focusing, we're in the trenches. But when you have that openness of mind, all of a sudden you kind of come up a little bit, wait, there's another revenue stream here. That I had this experience. I had a meeting with my team on Saturday, and there's a piece of what a tool that I use when I work with clients for their spending plan. And one of my team members said, why isn't this on your website that people can just use it themselves? Not everybody needs kind of the guidance, but maybe they just want to download it for $10, and they can do it and run it on their own, and they can update it quarterly. And I'm in the trenches. I'm focused. It didn't even dawn on me, and so that opens up. So I'm getting that product available within the next couple of weeks. So that openness is really, really crucial. And I will say, though, that I say that, right, knowing full well how busy we are. Knowing full well how sometimes you wake up and the thought of like what you have to get through in the day before you can sit down on the couch and read a book in the evening, that can be overwhelming. And so the thought of being open like that is you're just trying to get through the day. But when you can have those moments, when you can put a little Post-it note somewhere in your house to say, hey, remind yourself to think a little differently, give yourself some signs, and it can make all the difference in the world. Or have a great team.
I like that one too. Have a great team. but certainly allow yourself enough space, and you said it, some step back, get up
Yeah,
out of the trenches space in order to
yeah.
have some of this other stuff to actually flow to you. It's already flowing to you. It's the flowing through you that we
Mm.
sometimes miss. So I love the way that you put that, though, and that was a great example. And it leads me to, you're talking about drawing these spending plans and, liking it to, well, the budget that some people
Mhm.
have this total aversion to. So I love the spending plan concept. And you also mentioned a financial foundation so that
Mhm.
you can, between the spending plan and the financial foundation, what are some of the things that you see between the two that can help you really make it easier to have this mind shift take place?
So the beauty of the spending plan, and I'm not I don't use the term spending plan to make people feel better about a budget. I use the term spending plan because that's exactly what it is. It's where you plan to spend your money over the course of the next year. Usually I work in terms of years. Sometimes we have to do step off plans for folks, but it's where you want to spend your money on vacations. It's where your vacation goal for this year? That's got to be a part of the plan. What is it a new uh, are you a new entrepreneur and you're going to be meeting with clients that you didn't have that as much of that experience, or maybe let's do this, maybe you have a speaking aspect of your business now that you didn't have before, so you need to add a couple more outfits to your wardrobe. That is going to be a pretty significant investment. We put that in the spending plan. And what that does is it gives you, okay, this allocation, I know exactly how much money, or have an idea of how much money is coming in, because we're entrepreneurs, right? We don't
Yeah,
get that set paycheck, right? So we have
yeah.
an idea of what that is. And the spending plan allows you to allocate and make adjustments where it needs to be. But the intention, and I will add that a big part of my business is I work on retainer for financial advisors, and I do these spending plans for their clients. And so what I'm doing is, as I'm doing this, I'm looking for additional money. We're funding their fun. We're funding the things that they want to do, but we're also looking for additional money for their financial foundation. So to put towards their retirement accounts, to get their kids to college. And so often the money is there. So often the money's there. The most I've ever been able to find for a client was I found an additional $3,000 a month that was able to be repurposed to other things.
Wow.
On average, it's usually I find anywhere between $300 and $1,000 every month that can be repurposed. So how do we do that? The snowball debt repayment plan to pay down the debt. I mean, there's just again, when you're just kind of paying bills, you can't see where all the money is going, because it's going in a different, right? You're going to the grocery store, it's going to Target, it's going to all these little places. So when you have this kind of overall plan, and if that feels overwhelming, the way that I like to think about it is, what we're doing is we're writing the story of your life for the next year. This is how you fund it. So this is the funding plan to live the life you want. Here's how we have to do it, right? Otherwise, you just keep wishing for things. And without that plan in place, things take so much longer to happen.
I
Did I answer
love
your question?
it did. It
Okay.
did. And one key point that you brought up was the thinking around intention
Hmm.
and intentionally building in things so that I mean, and a lot of it has to do with the conscious and subconscious mind. And I won't get into that now, but when you bring intention and purposefulness into your planning, you've actually opened the door for the subconscious mind to say, I like that. I think I can help with that. And you do less stuff called self-sabotage. And that's really where you want to play, especially when you're talking about building this kind of a lifestyle and having lifestyle businesses. And I really want to make sure that people kind of bring this to point. And you'd mentioned three keys, three specific things that you wanted us to think about and remember as we're looking at purposeful spending. Go through those keys for me. What's the first key?
Um, Boy, I would say when it comes to purposeful spending, it's I'll back up a little bit, and I want to shift it a little bit. When it comes to our money, it's really making sure that the essentials are taken care of, right? The essentials are you've got a place to live, you've got food, you've got a means of transportation so you can get your next earn that next check. So that is one. The next is lifestyle and those lifestyle expenses. Um, are you again, it comes back to, are you spending money on the things that really enrich, or are you getting distracted from those things? So I'll give you an example. Whenever I speak, one of the questions that I always ask is, how many of you have ever walked into Target for toothpaste and walked out pushing a shopping cart loaded with bags? And that's when, everybody kind of starts laughing and all the hands get raised. And then I mentioned, well, okay, how about Costco? And then everybody's raising their hands. So those things, that situation is distracting you from the things you really want to do. And sometimes it just takes practice to get to the point where you stick into the list, and there's a tool I'll talk about in just a second to help you in that regard. It's a phenomenal tool. But then the other thing is really that third piece is building that foundation, building that money going to long-term retirement. The beauty of working with financial advisors is that I have seen the impact of, I've worked with folks that are in a fantastic situation and they are able to retire and they're able to travel and they're able to do the things they want to do. And I'm working with clients that are in their 70s that are still working and that will never be able to not work, and that they're tired and they're scared. And so I've really learned the power of that, of how crucial that foundation is, and that really is about putting money away every single month towards retirement. And as an entrepreneur, maybe one month it's $10, maybe the next month it's $300. But systematically doing that is crucial. So I think I went off on a bit of a tangent there for you, but I would say that those three things: your essential expenses, your lifestyle expenses, but retirement is huge.
I love that. I'm really glad that you even put it in that manner, because we're, especially entrepreneurs, have grown. Many have grown from the I've just got to make enough money to cover the essentials, to having covered the essentials and now I've got this extra. You called it discretionary income, and it's only discretionary if the piece of it that's focused on your lifestyle is included in that other space of, purposeful, designated, and then you can get to the discretionary, which is where you then take out, first of all, the money that's the foundation for your future. And I love the way you actually kind of threaded that. That was just beautifully put. Because, many of us think about foundations as being like before now, before this point, and certainly not the foundation of our future. That's a new concept in thinking. Not new in doing, but definitely in thinking. And, we were talking about shifting mindset. Talk to me now about, especially for entrepreneurs, maybe the person who's in that space of just now, with a little bit of time, being able to say, I can cover expenses and I'm in the discretionary mode, but I do want to build to this lifestyle. What do you do to get started with that lifestyle thinking that gives you more of an opportunity to build your future?
So I would first really clarify what you want that lifestyle to be like. And I'll give you an example. I had mentioned before that my husband and I have, we really love to travel. And a while back, we're getting to a point where, I'll clarify, I own my own business, my husband owns his own business. And so we for the last couple of years, last probably 6-7 years, we have really dialed down the big travel. We also have a 7-year-old. So, these expenses that we took on, that we chose to, so that we, again, living the life that we want to live, doing the businesses that we want to do, we chose that, and so we had to give up the travel for a little while. So now we're at a point now where it's like, okay, you know what, I think we can start traveling again. And we got to the point where I was thinking about the fact that my son is 7 years old, and I have him to myself for another 11 years where we can go on trips. Hopefully he'll like me and want to hang out with me after he turns 18. But I have 11 years to show him the world. Where do I want to take him? So I'm not only thinking about where do we want to travel in the next year, I'm thinking about, okay, let's be systematic about this. And not to say that there aren't going to be times where there's serendipitous moments. My husband and I went on an amazing trip to China that we weren't expecting to do. We had this one trip planned, but we had this opportunity, and we could never have done that trip if we hadn't have taken it at that time. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. A very similar situation with our trip to Scotland. So what I want to say is you plan, but you're also open. But think about, like, what is the life that I want to live? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And so once you kind of start to really define it, okay, now here's the question: how much is it going to cost me? What do I need to earn? What do I need to set aside so that I can do this? And when you have the whys, it's amazing how the hows happen. And what I've learned, I find myself saying that all the time. One of the things I've learned a lot. And I have so much more to learn. But one of the things that I have learned is that saving money for the sake of saving is the most non-motivating thing in the world. It's just like, to be responsible. Okay, great. So what? But when you're saving money for a specific thing, then it makes all the difference in the world. And the way that when I'm working with clients, we save, the first thing that I ask them in the introductory call is, why do you want to be going through this process? What's your carrot? And then we figure out what their carrot is. We work towards that, but at the same time, we create that plan. That plan includes money for their emergency savings and money for their retirement. But the big carrot is whatever, the travel, the second house, whatever that is. Sometimes the big carrot is getting their kids through college without having to stay up at night worrying about it. So when we identify what that carrot is, it changes everything.
I agree. I call it keeping your eye on the prize.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love the way you talked about it. Clarify what you want. And then that opens up what kind of choices you have. Yeah. And then in looking at the choices, you can really go from looking at and deciding what your why is. Yeah. And then the hows open up, especially when you're motivated to do the saving.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, too, a lot of us get stuck because I haven't identified what I'm saving for. If it's a new house, a new car, a new whatever, it is in your best interest to put it out there, and put it out there in more than just a picture on a vision board. Actually know your numbers. It's a $70,000 car. What kind of down payment are you going to put on it? Yeah. Use the money aspect and being able to draw it out on paper in a spending plan to really help the energy of what you allow to come to you to happen. And I just love the way that you talked about all of that.
Well, I think I would just add to that real quick. The more that you can clarify it and really define it, the faster it's going to come. The faster you're going to be able to create the plan to define it or to make it happen.
It does. It's the doors open when you know what doors can open.
Yeah. You find the door.
Yeah. And the door will just appear in front of you. How many times have we done something and said, wow, it just appeared? And because I was ready to meet the opportunity, when the opportunity, that door showed up, I could walk through it. Yeah. And a lot of times, especially with what you're talking about, the spending plan is the perfect opportunity for you to be in opportunity. So that when that, you've got maybe half of what you, in your spending plan, had designed for your trip, but the trip comes to you a little earlier at half the cost.
Yes.
And now you've got it all covered, and it can happen sooner, and schedules permit. And I mean, isn't that what makes life beautiful?
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, what can you tell us and give us some additional information on as far as um, lifestyle perspective for the business owner? You know, it's one thing to be in this, I've got the personal income, I've got the lifestyle thinking on this side of the board, but now I've got to flip it because, you know, you do have to wear a different hat when you're thinking entrepreneurship. And for the entrepreneur, you know, and that's typically where we want to start with thinking about, I want to build a lifestyle business. And now that I've got it clarified, now what? Because I'm a dreamer. I've got it all on paper. I've got it on
Right.
the board. I've got, you know, I've got all of what it is that I want there. Now what happens?
Okay. So if I understand correctly, give me the first part of the question again, which
So
was
I'm looking from an entrepreneurial standpoint at building this lifestyle
okay.
business. And
Okay.
you talked about it pretty much on the personal side, but give me the business side. What does it take for me on the business side as far as my thinking and my planning?
Okay. Um, Hopefully this answers your question, and if it doesn't, I think it's still a crucial, crucial aspect to wealth. Again, I feel like I've been just on the a fly on the wall of being able to actually physically see the income and expenses of the wealthiest people and the not so much, and the ones that are doing it right and the ones that are, we got some problems here and we got to fix it, right? Oh, did I just lose you? Oh, there you are.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So here, I I want to start with a quick example because it's such a powerful example. There's a client that I'm working with or that I've worked with in on the East Coast. He owns his own business, earns $250,000 a year, is great about funding his IRAs, his 401ks. He's got 401k through his own business. I mean, he's got all these wealth building accounts that he's doing. And yet, everything that is left over from that, so he's hyper financially responsible in that end as far as putting money away to build wealth. But he is living paycheck to paycheck as far as all the other money that's left over. And it's because of lifestyle. So he's owned his business for 12 years. And in 12 years, he went from really not, not having much money at all to this lifestyle of the two country clubs and two houses and the kids going to private schools, and education is a different story because everybody's got different feelings on that. But what happened is as he earned more money, he created all these bills, all these monthly bills. And so the number one thing that I would say is as you are growing your business and as you are increasing and your lifestyle is do whatever you can to, sorry, my dog's barking. The wonders of working out of your home, one of the beauties. But as you are building your business and you're increasing your income, do not create bills. The people that are truly, truly wealthy are the ones that have no car payment, that have paid off their house. I had a lovely conversation with a couple this morning in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they earned a wonderful income as entrepreneurs. They paid off their house. They own 3 cars. All of them are paid off. They have a couple extra properties. All of them paid off. They are truly in a position of wealth. I have other clients like this particular gentleman that has all these bills, and that's income that's expenses that need to be paid every single month. So you can spend money. Just make sure that when you spend money, you're not buying a boat that needs to be financed. You're buying a car that isn't going to just kill you and cripple you every single month. Because if you think about the fact that entrepreneurs really earn their income in a different way than people who work paycheck to paycheck. So it's nothing against people who work paycheck to paycheck. It's just a different mindset. We have to generate that money coming in. We have to get the business. versus and do the work. So that thought of I can do all that, I can bring that money in, and as long as I keep my expenses to a minimum, which maybe isn't I finance it, but instead I save for it and then buy it. That's all the difference in the world. So that I think is the greatest money lesson that I've learned in the last, especially the last 2 years of working with advisors clients and really working with these high net worth clients.
I think that's great expense, especially for the entrepreneurial world. One of the things that we possibly need is, that new car, or like you mentioned, maybe even a new wardrobe. And maybe there's a certain strategy that you use that you also talked about. Instead of, having this huge expense and monthly car note, instead
Right.
you save to purchase it, or save half and make your car note less. And there are several kinds of strategies that you can employ there, but I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said that it was really just employing a new mindset
Mm-hmm.
of true wealth creation, because there are a lot of people who think that, earning a $250,000 a year, I'm wealthy. Well, you're not if it's all going out. Even like you said, perfect example, you're building for your future and you're very consistent with building that. But I mean, what I think most people kind of relate to also is the fact that, you've worked all this long, you've saved up all of this money, you're ready to retire and travel and do life on your terms, and the kids are gone, and then you've got medical expenses because you didn't build the lifestyle along with the income
Yeah.
and the building wealth. And that really has impacted a lot of people. How have you ever worked with anyone who that in fact has happened to? And are there ways to really focus on, you're in your 50s and you're finally at the stage of creating wealth, applying purposeful to that? Have you worked with people in that regard before?
The gentleman that I told you about that makes $250,000 a year from his company that he owns. Um, the tragic thing is that his dad never got a chance to retire. His dad basically fell ill while still working and basically languished in a bed for years and years. This particular gentleman himself, the 2 years into the business he's owned for 12 years, had a massive heart attack. And so in his thought process, he wants to get to a point where he can retire. It's one of the reasons why he was so good about throwing all this money towards his wealth building accounts. But he's so stressed. He's so stressed. He's got all this business travel. So he's and unfortunately, what we were able to do, which was I have a lot of phenomenal success stories, and he's one of my favorites because he was willing to make some changes, think outside the box, and make some changes. What we were able to do is give him some breathing room, because he was working. No matter how much money he brought in, it was never enough. It was never enough because the bills were here, the lifestyle was here. And so he made changes. The second house that they had, they rented out. I mean, like between one call and another, they had already contacted somebody, and somebody they had it rented out. I mean, it was amazing, and I was so shocked and so pleased, because it's one thing, it's like somebody gives you a solution, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great, I'll get around to it. I mean, this guy like jumped into it. So the health issues, yeah, I mean, and I have to be very careful myself because I love what I do. I'm at my desk at 6 in the morning, I work till about 5, and then I go and I help my husband at his business, which is in the fitness industry, so that helps. But I can so easily work and work and work and work, and even though I love what I do, that's not healthy, and it's difficult to maintain, and I get to a point where I'm not giving the quality of work anymore. So I've learned I have to put some safety gaps in there, and so it's yeah, that health is massive, and it really does become, I would say that of 70% of the folks I work with, it's one of the biggest line items of the insurance expenses and the co-pays and the extra folks that they're going to try to get healthy because they're tired.
Tired and stressed.
Yeah.
And I tell you, this is really why I'm so adamant about focusing on this. When you and I talked several months ago, I knew that you were someone that I wanted to bring on the show to have this discussion with, to bring this information forward about, because there are so many, especially women entrepreneurs, who actually even think that if they're not in it now, it may somehow pass them by. But I just want to be clear that having purposeful spending habits now is what's really going to help you to build wealth, and a wealth of health as well as a wealth of finances.
Right.
And Melissa, thank you for being on our show today. I am so, so happy that you were able to do this. I want to make sure that I just roll through really quickly what those 3 keys were. The first is make sure your essentials are taken care of, and as you're growing your business and getting into that discretionary income state. Number 2 was really allocate to those lifestyle expenses, and allocate with a strategy.
Yes, that's a great way of saying it, yeah.
And then the third phase would be to really focus on that wealth building foundation for your future. And all the while really realizing that there are a number of strategies that you can employ. And I know Melissa has a gift for our audience today. So Melissa, why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. So there's purposeful spending, which is you decide where you want to spend your money, but there's also a huge strategy around saving on your purchases. So if you go to my website, I've got a downloadable document there that is basically how to save 20 to 80% on just about everything you buy. And it's all about timing, and it's all about knowing the sales cycles, which is, I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about how it's like being on safari. And it's one thing to just go and just buy something, but it's another thing when you can buy it at the price you want. And so
Yeah.
my website is thesavvylife.com, THESAVVY, life, LIFE.com. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see we just enter in your information, and you can download that, and you're good to go.
Thank you so much. I definitely like the thinking around saving 20 to 80% on anything I buy. I'm like, yes, that AARP discount.
Absolutely.
That seniors discount sometimes amounts to an awful lot, but I think the thinking too is that if you've got those already in place, which a lot of, especially women entrepreneurs, have, there's other savings on top of that you can count on as well. And Melissa's got that list at her website, thesavvylife.com. Thanks again for joining us today, Melissa. It's been a real pleasure to host and interview you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And to our audience, thanks for joining us today. My name is V. Lynn Hawkins. I've been interviewing Melissa TOSETTI, the owner of The Savvy Life and the publisher of an online magazine called The Savvy Life. She's also an author and will help you with that spending plan. So make sure you go to our website and download the list of savings of that 20 to 80%. And I will see you for the next show. Remember, we air weekly on Thursdays from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and you're in the BIZ Info Zone, where you will get to hear the ideas, the tips, the strategies, and get the tools so that you can express your purpose, plan your next moves, and work yourself into increased profits. So thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.